What's up, everybody? John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, coming at you with another Comics Writer Pro secret. Today, I want to talk about feedback, when to listen and when not to listen. I noticed at the writing conference I was at this week, 20 Books 250K Vegas, which is a business-centric writing conference for independent authors who they put it on every year, and they really have takeaways of what's going on in the market, how you should be marketing yourself, what you should be doing on this. So you don't get as much of the writing conference how to write sort of stuff where they try to say, hey, get into your groups of beta readers and get into your writing critique groups and things like that. A lot of conferences are geared towards that, and this one is very different. And so I started thinking about it. And some of the newer writers would always start talking about critique groups and beta readers and all that, even in the conversations at this one. And so, you know, we'd be in a circle or whatnot, and I'd be sitting there kind of quiet while they're discussing their beta readers and critiques and how they just got blown up at their critique group last week and they don't know about their story, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just kind of smiling, and people are like, well, what do you do with your critique groups? And I just like, I don't have one. And they just look at me shocked. I'm like, I don't use beta readers either. And they go, huh. And I just say, well, and they go, how do you know your story's good then? I'm like, I just know. I'm a professional, so this is what I do. And this drills down into the feedback question. How do you take feedback? How do you know who's giving you the right feedback and who to listen to? Because everybody's going to have contradictory responses with things, especially if you're selling. If you have, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 readers, somebody's going to love an aspect of a character and somebody's going to hate an aspect of the character, and it's going to be the exact same thing. But you don't need to care about that. You want to care about two things. One, your artistic vision. You need to make sure everything you do is purposeful, you're mindful that you're doing it intentionally and not just haphazardly. You need to know the rules in order to do things well. You don't want a character who's all over the map and doesn't make sense unless that's what you're intending on doing with the character, and you need to communicate that's what you're intending on doing with the character. Second, you need to have your audience, right? So you have your artistic vision, then your audience's vision. And so you need to identify the audience that you want to connect to your book before you even get your book up, because those are the people you want reading it. Those are the people you want finding it. If I'm looking, I've got a Christian science fiction book, right? And obviously, I'm not going to market that to Muslim science fiction readers. They're not going to like my series very much. I can tell you that right now. And that's okay. I purposefully wrote my series that they wouldn't like my series that much, and it wouldn't bother me that they don't like my series that much. But at the same time, if they give me feedback that they don't like it because of the way that, the aliens, represent Islam in some sort of way, I don't care. I did not go into it with attempting to do that or to please them. So knowing that is very important. But there is feedback that's worth listening to. I definitely started in my career, and I had strong female leads going through, and I noticed that my audience that came in was a little more male heavy. So I developed Drin as a strong male lead to sort of be a counter to a lot of the other characters that I had going so far. And that's a thing that I did listen to my audience, because I know what my audience is and who I want my audience to be, and therefore I did that. And I don't think I'll lose any of my female audience readers because I've got mostly traditional female readers who are attracted to a strong male lead. So it works out very well in both cases. But I watched a review recently about Flying Sparks, and I noticed one thing that a lot of people who give unsolicited advice or whatever do, and a lot of people even who give solicited advice do. And this is where you might not want to listen to the people giving the feedback. They often tell you what they would have wrote in your place. So it's there's a fine line between something useful and constructive where it's like, hey, I thought the pacing on For Steam and Country was a little bit slow for the first half of the book before it really picks up. That's a thing I heard a lot with that book, and I adjusted my writing style after that in order to compensate for that. And all of my other books have not had that problem because of that. But but somebody might come along and go, hey, you should have had a main character who was better at what she did, a military character to start, not just a farm girl who's just being haphazardly thrown into things. I would have liked it better if she knew how to command an airship, and if she had a better hang of the battles in book one. That's somebody telling me that they would have liked to write a book about that, and not isn't actually helpful for my book, because my character is my character purposefully, and I wrote her the way she is purposefully, and so that's not helpful feedback for me. But I got that there was a YouTube review the other day on Flying Sparks, and it sort of went over the same thing, and it's like, you know he should have done this in this scene, and it should have gone this way, and in book 2 we should have had more development of the mafia, and it should have branched into a mafia book. Well, Flying Sparks, while Johnny is in the mafia and it's a part of the backdrop of him, is not a mafia book. I was not intending on writing a mafia book. I'm writing a superhero romance book. And so Metagirl is the main character over Johnny to some extent. Johnny is a main character, but he's there to be the foil for the romance, and that is the central part of the story. It's not the mafia. The mafia is a thing that's happening as a plot point. It's a subplot, but it's not what I'm intending on doing. So that feedback's incredibly useless to me, and it's something that I'm not going to change my book for the next installments for, because that's not what I'm intending on writing. And I hope those are good examples, because it's hard to drill into this topic without just giving specific examples of what you see. But once you are purposeful about it, you have to get to a point where you're in your writing, where you've done enough work, where you know what you can be purposeful about, and you know where your mistakes are. So in my prose, for example, I've got some nervous tics or whatever in my writing, where I use certain phrases a little too often, and I know what those are now, because I've written enough books to know when I do that. I try to cut them out even in the first draft now, but I actually do a find and search and replace, because my editors have pointed them out over the years, and I make sure that I don't overuse those phrases in modern books, because they gave me that feedback that, hey, you use this word too much, and it's distracting when you're trying to read the book and you've got this repetitive word in there. It's a very useful thing. And I think editors are a lot better about doing that, professional editors, than like critique groups or beta readers or things like that, because they are paid to just find those inconsistencies and errors and things like that. So I tend to listen to my editors a bit more on that level than others. I don't always listen to my editors on plot points, again, because it just depends on what I'm intending on doing. I had one for Glorified where I was told to change the plot point by Avely. If you're watching this, hey Avely, and she said this is too much like Star Wars. It's a Star Wars feel to it, and I'm like, I'm going for that. So I left it in there because I thought that's what I actually wanted out of the story. So that's the crux of when you should listen to feedback or when you should not listen to feedback. It's all about your intention. It's all about what your target audience is going to expect from something, and how much you want to play to them versus your artistic integrity. So this has been another Comics Writers Pro Secrets. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please hit the like and subscribe button and check out the channel. I'm glad you guys are here and hope you enjoyed.